Alright, gourmands are really here to stay, aren't they? We've got a boatload of new gourmand fragrances out there on the market. Some are really good, some are not really gourmand, but they look like gourmands, and some are just okay. In this video, I've got 21 more recent gourmand fragrance launches, and I'm going to tell you all about them coming right up. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm Sebastian. I'm talking to you about the recent onslaught of gourmand fragrances. Gourmand fragrances are really here to stay. Some are more like vanillic, but others go into all different kinds of directions. And I've got some great fragrances here also. Some also can be tricked to thinking that they're gourmands, but they have other things happening that might kind of put you off. And I'm going to tell you all about them. Let's get started with the first fragrance. From a brand that I haven't really spoken too much about, recently featured one of their fragrances in a suede fragrances video, suede leather. This is LIIS CHOUX, L-I-I-S. Are you guys familiar with this one? So this one I really fell in love with because it's got this kind of buttery, creamy, doughy consistency when you wear it. It has a very, almost like caramel and dough mixed together. So you've got that kind of dough-like consistency where you've mixed in this kind of gooey, creamy, sticky caramel, and the dough is kind of like blending in with it. It's a really delicious combination, but it's not super sweet, and I feel like it's got that fleur de sel note in it, and that kind of tones it down. But way in the background also, there's a bit of chocolatey edge here. There's cocoa and mocha in this, but really super delicious. It's almost like you're baking and all your ingredients are in front of you and you can smell them. You can smell the cream, the fresh cream, a bit of the citrus rinds that you have, the caramel, which is a bit salty, the vanilla beans, which is kind of super delicious, and then of course you've got cocoa, mocha, and sandalwood. It's a very creamy fragrance. This one I highly recommend. This is CHOUX from the house of LIIS. I'm going to be really starting to talk about this house because they have two really amazing recent launches. Between this one and the other one that was a suede leather, I really love this one. You guys definitely need to check this one out. So this is CHOUX from the house of LIIS. The next one I've spoken quite a bit about. I bought while I was in Dubai, not Saudi Arabia. This is Swiss Arabian SHAGHAF Vanilla Toffee. Really one of the best from this house, probably the best in this series, because it seems most original compared to the others. I haven't smelled something like this from others. Sure, it's a gourmand. There are other fragrances like this, but it doesn't smell like a dupe or something. It seems pretty original. It's got, all kinds of things happening with it. There's coffee here, brown sugar, there's dates, even nutty notes like walnuts, there's toffee, of course vanilla, there's cookie dough, and of course you've got all these different woody, spicy, milky notes as well. Again, a great gourmand, also not really expensive because this collection is not super expensive. And in here, you can smell creaminess, doughiness, milky, coffee, and nuttiness all rolled into this kind of a really delicious gourmand fragrance. Everything going in doesn't seem like it's overwhelming, even though when you look at the notes breakdown, it seems like it's going to be overwhelming with the notes. They all work really wonderfully together. I highly recommend this one. This is probably the best, not probably, definitely the best in the SHAGHAF series of fragrances from Swiss Arabian. The next one is an update to a popular fragrance from Imaginary Authors, the Whiff of Waffle Cone fragrance. This is an update called Dipped in Chocolate. This is it right here. I bought this as soon as it was announced, and I actually bought a couple of bottles because I think it's limited edition. I don't know. They do these limited edition things. They take them away, they bring them back, and things like that. Just wanted to have a couple on hand. So I've been a fan of Imaginary Authors probably dating back to 2013, so 11 years, and I enjoy their kind of indie takes on fragrances. It's a Josh Meyer's an indie perfumer, and I think he did a great job with this gourmand. It's chocolate, vanilla, waffle, sandalwood, benzoin, and cardamom. And if you like a sticky, gooey chocolate, but with a very powdery consistency, you're going to really enjoy this. I also get a bit of mint, almost like mint chocolate, but the mint is very toned down. I don't know why I'm getting that, but I feel like there's something in here that's giving me like a mint vibe that contrasts through the chocolate. I don't know if you guys get that or not. Maybe it's just my nose picking things up together, combining to be smelling like that. But in the end, it's quite delicious. I wasn't a big fan of chocolate and fragrances. Montal's Chocolate Greedy kind of ruined my interest in it, but I've come full circle and am enjoying a lot of chocolate fragrances. One other thing about this reminds me of chocolate mousse. Really, the way it smells and the consistency, that fluffy airiness of chocolate mousse totally reminds me of that. And I go to France a lot. In Paris, there's a restaurant where they have this big tub of chocolate mousse. They bring it and put it on your table, and you can scoop it up and plop it on your plate. And it's just reminding me of that smell. But moving on to the house of Violet Parfum. This is Pour Revere, this one right here. Brand new one from this house, and also brand new bottles. What do you guys think of these bottles? I've been a big fan of this house ever since they relaunched, and they've got some really great fragrances. This is the first release in the new bottles. I think the bottles seem to be simplistic. They're also probably a bit more modern and fitting with the younger demographic. They kind of appeal to the younger demographic. But I think they've got a great gourmand here, a bit on the nutty side, and still created by Nathalie Lorson. She does all the fragrances of Violet Parfums, and I think this is definitely a great, delicious take on a gourmand. It's hazelnuts, marron glacé, which is candied chestnuts. There's mate here, cocoa, iris, myrrh, frankincense, vanilla, gaiac, and rum. So it's a bit boozy, very nutty, a bit candied. Got the holiday vibe going for it. So there's chocolate that comes in as well, but chocolate in a cocoa way, obviously, because it's cocoa, not real chocolate. And eventually there's definitely some smoky touches under there, resinous touches, powdery as well because it's got iris, and slight booziness. It wears better on skin. When I tested this out, it's wearing better on skin than on strip because things come alive more, but I'm smelling it and it smells super fantastic, especially after the other gourmands I just tested. Definitely this one's standing out as different. The frankincense and myrrh resin touches is, coming through. Of course, the marron glacé and the hazelnuts for their nuttiness and sweetness from the candied part of the marron glacé. Really nicely done. It acts more like an amber. There's like an amber base, and I feel like the myrrh and the frankincense mixed in with the vanilla creates for an amber effect with that one. But the next fragrance from the house of Perfumology is Decadent Memories, this one right here. I actually sampled this in their store. Recently I was there for a Juicebox 54 event. I don't have that fragrance on this list, by the way. It's not a full-on gourmand. These are definitely more gourmand, but there are some that kind of act like gourmands, but don't wear like gourmands. But Perfumology's Decadent Memories is such a delicious, almost like you're taking a lot of fruits and baking dough, crumbling up the dough, mixing it with the fruits together. Is that like a fruit compote, but more like a crumble, I would say, kind of in that kind of style. It's cherries and blueberries, baked apple, vanilla, blackcurrant, tonka beans, sandalwood, cedar, ambroxan, and musk. I think they got a great gourmand here. This, I think, is the first fragrance created by Nathalie Feistauer. I think the rest of the fragrances were created by Justin Frederico. I could be wrong, but I've reviewed every single one of their fragrances in the past, and they were all done by Justin Frederico. Here we've got a brand new perfumer. If you like fruity gourmands, you're definitely going to love this one. There's a little bit of a reminder of Fruit Loops as well, because there is a doughy kind of a side of this fragrance and an overdose of fruits. And there's a bit of a Fruit Loops-like effect happening here. That's Decadent Memories from the house of Perfumology. Then we've got Etat Libre d'Orange's Story of Your Life, this one right here. Are you familiar with this one? So this is a full-on gourmand from this house, but with an ambery edge as well. There's an amber woods experience on the dry down. But there's booziness from rum, there's vanilla absolute, there's brioche, laurel, orange blossom, benzoin, cistus, and davana. Love this note of davana. It kind of appears in a lot of fragrances lately. It's been here in 54 up at the top. I like that kind of green booziness it provides. But here I feel like it's more of an afterthought in the fragrance. For me, it's definitely very vanillic, slightly boozy, and also doughy because it has that brioche note. So it kind of does have a bit of a patisserie-like quality. Boozy, and also very ambery when it's drying down. You've got the benzoin here, you've got the cistus, and then the vanilla mixed in together. There's two kinds of vanillas here to create this really wonderful, delicious gourmand. It's not necessarily very sugary, so if you're not into sugary gourmands, definitely check into that one. If you're more into sugary gourmands, then probably some of the first fragrances I spoke to you about would be more appropriate for you. But for me, it has a bit of a lightness about it, not necessarily going very sugary sweet. All right, next up, going to the house of Born to Stand Out. It's Be My Cookie. And I wanted to really love this one. This one actually disappoints because it has a lot of animalic notes. So it kind of interrupts the wearing experience, because when you're thinking you're going to wear a gourmand, but in comes the Castoreum and the Tonquitone, which interrupts the experience. So I just got a comment recently because I featured this in another video. Somebody said, it smells so good on me. I really, really love it. But yeah, I think it's there to be appreciated by people. But for me, I wanted cookie, but I get an animal and a cookie together. Does that make sense? So the notes are crunchy cookie, Tonquitone, Castoreum, bourbon, vanilla, and raspberry. And again, it's more prominent on skin versus the strip. For me, the skin is where the animalic notes come through. It doesn't come up that much here. It's cookie, it's fruity, it's bit vanilla, well, not bit vanillic, it's very vanillic, but in the background there's the animals shouting, you know, howling. So that's Born to Stand Out, Be My Cookie. I would say use with caution. But again, you might not be sensitive to animalic notes, so you might not experience it. For me, I'm pretty sensitive to it. It comes straight through. But the next fragrance going to the house of D'Orsay, it's Tonka Hysteria in the Extrait de Parfum concentration. Hands down, next to 54 from Juicebox. This is one of my favorite fragrances of the year. I absolutely love it. So in a top 20 best fragrances of 2024, this will be definitely a top 5. But if you like tonka beans, kind of slightly fruity and also boozy, you're going to really love this one. It's a great one. But there's a lot of peppery spice and smokiness in here as well. And super fantastic fragrance. But it's mandarin, vanilla, tonka, benzoin, myrrh, orris, cinnamon, oliban, and pink pepper. Great job for this fragrance. One of the best fragrances of 2024. I absolutely love wearing it. And I do get compliments with this as well. It's Tonka Hysteria from the house of D'Orsay. Let me know if you're familiar with that one. I'm not going to smell that one because I've spoken quite a bit about it. But yeah, you can watch some of my other videos. But the next fragrance going to the house of Electimus London. It's Caspian Cherry. This one right here. And this is Electimus London's take on a cherry fragrance. And I think they've done a good job with it. It's a bit different than others. It's got that coffee note. But in the end, you're really experiencing the black cherries in here. It's black cherries, coffee, white chocolate, coconut. There's amaretto liquor, cinnamon, dark chocolate, honey, tonka, and a lot of other notes. It wears really great on my skin. You really pick up the creaminess of the chocolatey notes in here. There's a sweetness from the honey. It becomes very, very powdery. And of course, there's the nuttiness that comes through as well. For me, I feel like the cherries themselves are a bit on the boozy side, and the amaretto liquor intensifies and creates a lot more booziness in here. But don't forget, you've got coffee in here that cuts right through everything as well. So in the end, it's a cherry gourmand. And even though Lost Cherry is a gourmand, a fruity gourmand, this acts more gourmand than Lost Cherry to me, if that makes sense. So that's Electimus London's Caspian Cherry. Let me know if you're familiar with that one. And then recently did a video of this house's 3 new gourmand fragrances. This is Saint Honoré, my favorite in the trio. Definitely really great. It's more like a vanillic, doughy, cakey gourmand in comparison to the others, whereas Macaron Bourbon was not really gourmand to me. And then the Pavlova was like a fresh, fruity gourmand. Here we have a really great, delicious, creamy, and also almost like frosting on cake. But really super delicious with hazelnuts, vanilla, milk, sandalwood, amber, musk, orange flower, pepper, bergamot. It also sits a bit closer to the skin, but it really does come alive on the skin. For me, this is more of a skin scent, but quite long lasting. When you're wearing it also, it does have a bit of a holiday spice vibe. Really does remind me of a dessert like I would get in France or something. Wonderful creation. Definitely the best in the trio. I really highly recommend this one. But you might like all 3 of them, who knows. But this is Saint Honoré from the house of Parfums de Nicolai. So up next, going to the house of Boadicea the Victorious, this is Defender, this one right here. So Defender is a really intense, super sweet, powdery, spicy, fruity honey fragrance. If you're not into honey and fragrances, this one probably is overwhelmingly sweet, but it's nicely balanced with white floral notes. There's a lot of it. There's also resins here. There's a ambery dry down, balsamic dry down, but it's super potent and intense. But it's screaming sweet, sugary honey and also spicy, boozy notes combined together. It's totally different than some of the other perfumes from this house. You can tell because it smells like a different DNA kind of a thing. A different perfumer has created this. But in the end, it's quite nice. It's a really nicely done floral, fruity, sweet gourmand, right? There's amber touches for sure, but definitely prominent floral notes and also honeyed notes. I think it's definitely a great fragrance to try if you're into the idea. Honey is a bit challenging for some people. Sometimes it does go a bit urine-y. Sometimes the people complain about that, but try it out and see what you think. But the next fragrance is from the house of Père Noir. It's Ottimo, this one right here. This one's a really yummy gourmand, guys. Try this one. It's an underrated indie house from Switzerland, and I think this one's quite nice. I think they did a great job with Ottimo. It's in the end a gourmand with tobacco. We've got pralines, vanilla, tonka, tobacco, rum, cardamom. There's osmanthus here, quince, cedarwood, patchouli. In the end, it's fruity for me. It's almost like I am getting a jam, a fruity jam, or like a jelly. And I feel like the osmanthus and the quince giving me that kind of fruity, jammy experience with booziness, vanillic touches, some slight chocolatey touches, all along with that tobacco giving you that kind of dirty ashiness in here. It's not uber dirty or ashy, but you can experience that contrast because tobacco, you know, smoke, ash, things like that, cuts right through the gourmand sweet fruity notes. I think they did a great job. There's a slight nuttiness in here as well. Maybe it's the fact that it's pralines in here and maybe the pralines have some nutty notes. But I think that one's really great. The next fragrance is Maison Tahiti's Vanille de Minuit. This one right here. This one was actually recently in the mystery box number 5. And this is I wouldn't call this a full-on gourmand. I would say this is a masculine vanilla fragrance. And it's not necessarily full-on gourmand. It's very leathery. There's leather here. Vanilla, saffron, sandalwood, leather, and benzoin. So in the end, it's getting ambery when it's drying down and woody with the sandalwood. There's a creamy effect happening. But the saffron intensifies the leather note, so it creates a very aromatic, spicy leather experience against the vanilla. So if you're into the idea of vanilla, but you think it gets too sweet, super sweet, you might try this one. I wouldn't call this a full-on gourmand if I didn't say that already. It's a very leathery take on vanilla. In the end, some people don't want that sweet sugary gourmand. You might want something more masculine, and I feel like the leather provides that in here. And I'm not saying that vanilla is a feminine note. I absolutely love it. But for me, leather is an uber masculine note. So that's the direction this fragrance goes. So that is Maison Tahiti's Vanille de Minuit. The next one's also an uber masculine take on vanilla. This is Estrella de la Mañana. This is so smoky. But, you know, when you really look for the vanillic notes and the gourmand touches, you'll really experience it. In the end, though, it's birch, vanilla, cocoa, benzoin, tears. Birch is providing a very leathery, smoky experience here. But you've got lots of vanilla. You've got benzoin. You've got cocoa in there as well. And on skin, it opens up better. It sweetens up. On the strip, it's very dry and smoky, not very gourmand. Uber leathery. Really, really intensely leathery for sure. But I really love this. This smells really, really great. It's a totally different take on a gourmand fragrance. I think they did a great job with it. And also, it's so super strong. It's really intense. A little goes a long way. So this is Nuit Nomade's Estrella de la Mañana. Let me know if you're familiar with that. All right, next up, going to the house of Atelier des Ors. This is Cocoa Kimia, or Coco Kimia, this one right here. They have 2 fragrances that they just launched in an Extrait de Parfum collection. Brand new Extrait de Parfums, not older fragrances becoming Extrait de Parfums. And this is my favorite of the 2. I like this one. I wanted it to be more intense, and for an Extrait de Parfum, it's a bit closer to the skin but smells amazing. And for me, they've claimed cocoa and cardamom here. I do get those notes, but I get a lot of amber and musk as well. For me, it's almost like a sweet kind of take on an animalic musk. It doesn't get uber animalic, but I don't know, maybe some people that are sensitive might get a little bit of that themselves. Like Sadonaso, if you're familiar with that, it kind of hints at it a little bit, more of like a chocolatey sweetness take on Sadonaso. If it's me, maybe that's just me that's getting that, but I'm getting something similar to that, and I quite like that. And that's the reason why I like this one. It's really, really delicious. There's cocoa, there's cardamom for sure, and that muskiness, the ambery touches in the dry down. Really, really wonderful. Love that. I enjoy it better than the coffee one. This is Cocoa Kimia Extrait. Let me know if you've sampled that one. But this next one, really wonderful from Dries Van Noten. This is Chamomile Satin, this one right here. Really fell in love with this. This is created by Julien Rascanet and Paul Guerlain, IFF. I think Julien did this before he left IFF. But a totally unique take on a gourmand. And I wouldn't call it a super uber gourmand. It's galbanum, musk, vanilla, and Turkish rose. Man, the combination is amazing. Really, really, it smells delicious. Really, really wonderful. There's a, like chamomile has that kind of dry effect happening. So the fragrance to me has a major dry experience, but the vanillic sweetness comes through. There's a bit of a syrupy touch. Rose appears, and it's musky under there for sure. But man, amazing creation. I think they did such a great job with this together working on this. Absolutely love it. If you haven't tried it, please do. I think you're going to enjoy it because it smells fantastic. Only wish that it was a bit more stronger, but I think it's pretty strong on its own. The next fragrance, another fragrance featuring in the latest mystery box, is Prodigy from the House of Mind Games. Also, not an uber experience with gourmand touches, but it does have the cafe latte touch in here with rose, sandalwood, vanilla, blonde woods, cinnamon, patchouli, longoza, bergamot. So for me, this starts off a bit like a Middle Eastern fragrance, then becomes more like this really powdery French perfume with sweet notes, coffee notes, rose, all combined, kind of reminding you a little bit of Intense Cafe, but to me they smell different. This one's more powdery, not as creamy as that, and a great wearing experience and very long lasting. If it's not like a super screamer with projection and sillage, it has such great longevity, and it also opens up and develops into really, really great smelling experience. So I highly recommend that one from Mind Games. I think they did a great job. This next one is brand spanking new for me. Never really even heard of the house. It's Ara, and the name of the fragrance is Gwen. But it's a super delicious gourmand, guys. If you haven't tried this, you should look this one up. It's orchid, ylang ylang, musk, vanilla, benzoin, almonds, orange blossom, neroli, heliotrope, woods, rum, tangerine, jasmine, cedarwood. It's good. It's a real gourmand. Like, this is the uber gourmand. Fruity, fresh, citrusy, floral, nutty. On skin, it's boozy, resinous, ambery. Really, there's a lot of candied effect happening here, but wonderful offering. I want to experience this house more. I believe this is the only gourmand they have, but it's super delicious. And to me, it does have a bit of a reminder of fragrances from Kayali. So if you like those, you're probably going to like that one. Up next, going to the House of Morph. It's Tonquitone. This one right here. I recently featured this yesterday in another video. Check that video out because there's a really great promotion for this. But this to me is a really yummy bitter almondy gourmand. So if you like fragrances like Blanche Bête, it might remind you of it, also with the bottle because it's kind of white. But it goes more almondy and nutty, and also the bitterness of the almonds. If you've ever tasted bitter almonds, you know what I'm talking about, because almonds or some seeds from a fruit can taste like almonds and have extreme bitterness, and this is where you get with that. But it's tonka, almonds, sandalwood, jasmine, orange blossom, ambrette, benzoin, coconut water, and figs. But they did a great job with this. It's also a great gourmand take on a tonka bean fragrance. It's milky, it's lactonic, it's musky, but bitter almondy for sure. So good. They did a great job. That perfumer is Matthew Nardin. I think he did a great job on them. I'm really enjoying some of the fragrances he creates. Two more left, guys. This next one's from the house of J Scent. I've spoken quite a bit about this house. This is On a Cloud. This one right here. So this is an unusual take on a gourmand, and it's vanilla with sugar, milk, but something strange comes in. It's peppermint. So it's almost like a peppermint sweet candy, which sometimes can be not pleasant, but this one's actually quite yummy, and it reminds me of the real herb rather than like the fake mint stuff. But the peppermint kind of cuts through the sweetness and the sugary touches and the milky touches of the gourmand experience here. So it makes for a two-sided fragrance. You've got this kind of peppermint side, more aromatic, more herbal, a bit green, and then all the milky, sweet, sugary, vanillic, ambery side on the other side, and they work really nicely together. It's not overdosed with the peppermint, so it does smell great. And there's also a slight booziness there as well. And then finally, last but not least, we've got Gallagher's Pearlescent Collection Fragrance Cremel, this one right here. And a very syrupy, sweet, sticky, caramelly fragrance here, a brand new one. Finally, something I really enjoy from this house. I know they do a lot of different fragrances. I'm not a fan of all of them, but I really enjoy this one. And I like the sticky, sweet creaminess of this one. It's creme brulee, caramel, French vanilla, sandalwood, grapefruit, hinoki, incense, and patchouli. Again, once again with this one, it's better on my skin. It smells super fantastic. Way in the back there's the patchouli. It's screaming out, but it's a gourmand. It's sticky, it's sweet, syrupy, sugary, vanillic, and sweet. And again, there's a sandalwood creaminess happening in here, and there's some light things that are kind of contrasting through the gourmand notes, like the hinoki, the incense, and of course the patchouli. Nicely done, but again, if you like caramelly, sticky fragrances, definitely try Cremel from the House of Gallagher Perfumes. Anyway, that's all I have for you guys. Latest gourmand fragrances, some very gourmand, some not, some leaning masculine, and some I enjoy, some I don't enjoy, but let me know which one sounds great to you. If you've sampled any of them and you're enjoying them, also put a comment down. And then do let me know if there's something else out there as well that I might have missed, because there's a lot out there and I can't get my hands on every one of them. So I'd like to find out if there's something really, really good out there that I should get my nose on. But either way, guys, thanks so much for watching today's video. If you have any questions or comments, please list below. Please like this video. Please share it. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye.